We're here.
Hello.
So first, a couple things. One, I'm in my bathrobe with no makeup on. It's 8 o'clock at night. I took a shower after I went to the pool, and I just didn't feel like putting makeup on, you guys. And I'm sorry. It's not because I don't love you. Also, I don't have actual wine. I have my Eclipse beer in a wine glass. I think that should count. Also, my baby is screaming in the background because he doesn't want to go to bed. It's real in here.
Our children have yelled at us all day. I'm wearing my pajamas. I'm in our basement. Chad has muted the first Bengals football game.
Okay.
The second, he tells me. And I just got very frazzled about getting my AirPods connected to my computer. And that's where I am.
I love my AirPods.
The fruitiest of Moscatos right now. It's delicious.
Oh, I can't do fruity.
That's too bad.
This is another fundamental difference that you have. You like sweet drinks. I don't.
I do like sweet drinks.
Mm-mm.
So we talked about doing wine and wine after you said on one of our calls, like maybe we should do for a bonus episode just all the things that we hate about Donald Trump.
I have a list. I have a long list. Actually, here is my first thing I would like to whine about with Donald Trump. So I've watched the press conference about the white supremacy. Here's what I think got missed. My favorite part of that is the whole time, his whole entire emphasis was, I like the facts. I tell the truth. And I was like, literally, nothing is less true. You hate facts. You never say the honest thing. And I don't jump to conclusions. That's also not true. That just was the funniest part to me. I was like, your whole point could not be further from how you actually act. Ugh.
Yeah, I mean, I think that if I had to make a list of the things that trouble me the most about Donald Trump, at the very top would be just that
He lies.
He lies.
All the time.
All the time. Casually, in ways that make me unsure whether he actually knows what is true himself.
It's true. Also true. The other thing I want to say about that press conference is, if you are a quote-unquote very good person at a protest of the statues, Confederate statues, removal of the Confederate statues, and I will agree that there could be very good people who come to protest the removal of a Confederate statue, I think. If you are a very good person, and you're like, I'm going to go to this protest of the removal of a Robert E. Lee statue. And then you get there, and there are neo-Nazis everywhere. A very good person would turn their ass around and go home.
I think that's true. I have been trying to understand who all made up this Unite the Right situation. And I think it's real clear that these were not a bunch of historians.
Oh my God, the guy on Twitter who was like, I'm sorry, I've been so busy learning how to build statues as I got my doctorate in history. That guy slayed. I love that guy.
It's the only way we learn.
It's so true. And that's what, I sort of wrote my podcast. Like the whole idea that like history is statues. Where did that come from? I don't understand that point at all.
I've been trying to think about significant statues like in Kentucky, because we both lived here our entire lives. No, you lived for a while, but your family's been here forever. So I don't recall seeing statues that ever made much of an impression on me as far as Kentucky history.
I mean, I love the statues of the suffragettes in the Capitol Rotunda. Big fan of that.
What's that, Chuck?
Secretary.
Oh, it's secretary. That's true. Their statues
valid.
more influential than people's statues.
Point. I mean, you see, I don't know if statues will ever, I don't know if influential is ever the right word, period. You know what I mean? Like, you see, it could be impactful in the moment. You could be like, I learned something, didn't know that. But, like, influential in a big, broad way? I mean, well, although here's the thing, though. Are we talking about both sides of our mouth? Because are we saying statues aren't important, but then turning around saying they're important because they were intimidating people?
That's a good point. I was also just sitting here wondering how many of these folks spend a lot of time in museums or otherwise supporting the arts.
Right. Well, I mean, I think a lot of the Sons of the Confederate people, they're big like reenactors. They do enjoy a good old-fashioned battle reenactment. And I do also enjoy the accompanying food at battle reenactments, but I've only been to a French and Indian War one, not a Confederate one.
There is a Confederate one in the county that I grew up in.
Do you get to eat the turkey legs and the kettle corn?
I think I only went one time. It was oppressively hot.
Mm.
And I would not characterize it as a sophisticated experience for me. What I realized, like, and I don't want to be ugly about that. I mean, there are people who really care about history, and there is a role, certainly. I mean, I'm not going to say we should never make another Civil War movie.
My favorite thing is the reenactors at ours always like try to hide their cell phone. Like if you try to get a picture of them, like I've had a couple times where I try to get a shot of them in their costumes with their cell phones, and like somebody will block them. It's so
Why?
I think they don't want people to know they're using cell phones, or like I don't know, but that's happened to me a couple times. Because it's funny when they're like in their full getup and they have their cell phones. So I always want to take a shot, and like I've had a couple times where another one will like step in front of my picture to block them on their cell phone.
I do realize though, like I just don't like to be in places where I don't like to watch violent TV. I don't like to be in places where violence is happening, whether it's real or fake. It's just not for me. Ever since I had a baby, I mean, I used to watch like all the Law and Orders that were ever made, all the CSIs, anywhere where someone was doing some forensic investigation. I was all over that. And when I had Jane, something in me flipped, and I just can't do it anymore. It's my
Here, it's what I could not watch after I had children. Sex and the City. I used to watch them.
Interesting.
I'd watched all of them probably 3 or 4 times. And the second I had kids, I was like, this show is shallow and tried. I'm never watching it again. I could never watch it again. It's kind of a bummer. I really enjoyed it. It brought a lot of joy to my life, but I could just never watch it again.
I agree with that. So I am annoyed by the statue conversations coming from people who I think of usually as really nice people. And I'm struggling with what I perceive as just being ugly to our fellow humans.
Yeah.
By having a fit about the statue conversation. Like, I guess I wonder when you come out just guns blazing against removing one of these Confederate statues, like what are you trying to say to the world other than something that is pretty cruel?
Right. Well, I feel like there's 2 groups though. There's people who like come out guns blazing who are pretty not troubled by, I think, the perception that they could hold racist beliefs. And then I think there are people who think they're making like a history protecting, intellectual, anti-PC argument. And they think that's fine.
And they super resent being associated with racism, right? Because they think that they're not capable of racism.
I need to whine about this. If you are white and live in America, you are associated with racism. Okay? Mm-hmm. Can we just let that go, please? You don't get a pass. I don't care what you've done. And it's my friend who like has adopted 2 black children from Africa. I don't think she'd claim she has a pass. She says she thinks things all the time. She's like, oh shit. You know, like
it doesn't mean you're a terrible human being.
No, it just means that's our history. We have to deal with it. We have to confront it. And pretending we're all colorblind and super awesome is not going to get us there. Stop doing that, everybody.
Okay, I also want to whine about the people who think that we hate Donald Trump.
Oh. I don't hate him. I don't know him. I feel, and here's the thing too. Like, people who like go through like real machinations and like who I can see this sort of like they're smart enough to know better. I think they know what they're doing. They don't care. None of this is true of him. I don't think. I just don't. I mean, like he's not. This is gonna sound bad. It's gonna sound mean. I don't think he's smart enough to deserve my hate.
Well, that's interesting.
I don't hate dumb people. Just that makes me sound like a terrible person.
Well, I was thinking the other day about how, you know, people say that the opposite of hate is not love, it's indifference.
Mm-hmm.
And I think on a personal level, I do feel very indifferent about the president. However, I hate what he's doing to the office.
Yeah.
And I hate
that's what I hate.
Our public discourse and our position in the world and the unleashing of all of this white supremacist bullshit. That's what I hate.
So I've taken this just sort of stand for myself that the day of the inauguration, because I am a person who loves the presidency. I've always loved The Office. I have always loved the history of The Office. I love all pop fiction about The Office. Like, you know, it's special to me, as it is to many Americans. And I feel like he is such a degradation of the sacredness of The Office.
I totally agree.
That I've just taken the stance of like, I did not watch him be sworn in, and I never, ever want to see that. I never, ever want to see him be sworn in or hear him say those words. Just for me personally, it's just too much. And so the other day we were watching that Don't Speak documentary, and they showed it, and literally I put my hands in my ears, I closed my eyes, and I started going, I do not want to see this. I refuse to see this. I did not see this at the inauguration, and I will not see it now. I refuse to see this. My husband was just like, are you okay? But I can't. I can't do it.
Well, and honestly, I would feel that he was degrading the office of dog catcher.
Lord.
I think all public service is so much better than what he's doing right now. And so I get this message, like this really kind of thoughtful message from a person who's like, you're not giving any time to the good things he's doing. And there are some good things, right? Like I am very pleased that we're making a better effort to take care of our veterans. Hope all that works out really well. I applaud that. The problem is, when I put it all on a scale of pro and con, it doesn't even start to tip toward net positive. It just doesn't. And I feel like what's on the con side is just such a big deal that I can't convince myself that this is anything other than like a moral test for me of whether I'm going to be this mealy-mouthed equivocator or actually stand up for like really basic virtue, like virtue that's so basic that we all talk about it like it's cliche and quaint.
Yeah.
But it's cliche and quaint because it's super foundational to us as human beings.
Oh, and there's a part of me too, and I said this to my husband at one point, I said, you know what? I think the reason there's a part of my brain that just can't think about him as president is because he's made me realize that president is not something you are bequeathed or even something you win an election. It's something you earn. It's something you show you have, sort of illustrate by doing. You demonstrate that you are president over and over and over again. And I mean, and that's really, not just my personal view, but it's kind of true, right? I mean, that's why we track their approval rating all the time. Is because you sort of demonstrate your ability to do the job. And he has never done that. Never. I was listening to Ezra Klein and Chris Hayes on Ezra Klein's podcast, and he was like, we love this idea of like the president is CEO and the America running the government like a business. He's like, but there would be no CEO still in that job.
That's
under
right.
these circumstances, who's lost the beliefs, the faith of their stockholders at a 60 to 30% proportion, who their advisors leak and talk about like he's a child, like nobody, and who people just ignore, like the military's like, yeah, we know he said that, we're not going to do that. Like you would fire him. Everybody would move on.
Well, and the transparency of like business actually stepping up to the plate and taking principled stands and people resigning from all these boards and then him being like,
I'm the CEO,
you didn't quit, I disbanded you.
Oh, yeah. Sure. That hurts him though, because that's his thing, his shtick, and I think that for a lot of independent voters, it was, well, forever and always, I think it was, I hate Hillary Clinton, forever and always. That has to be the first step. It's the only way you get there. And then the second step was, I don't like what he says, but he's a businessman. Yeah. He's a businessman. He's not, he's also not a businessman. I just want to put that out.
Well, talk to me about what deal he has closed since he was inaugurated.
Talk about what deals he closed before. I mean, he never did anything. He was, okay, I'm going to stop. Wait, no, I'm not going to stop because this is Whine and Whine. He didn't do anything. He was not a sexualist. They all thought he was a joke. That's why Michael Bloomberg came to the DNC and said, we all think he's a joke. P.S.
Well, that's what this is all about, right? He doesn't want to be a joke. And
Yeah.
he's, so everything is about him not being a joke. So back to my wine for a second. I said this on Twitter today, and I feel it so deeply in my heart that if you are more comfortable telling me that because I'm critical of the president, I hate him, but you're not willing to use the word hate about people who are literally wearing swastikas, again, a moment to check in, because I think things are out of whack in your life.
Check in internally. I feel about that. I always say this too about the neo-Nazi. Again, like if you are a good person and you go and you see swastikas, or if you're quote unquote a very good person, and at any point, because that's my favorite, that was my other favorite part of that press conference, I'm not going to put them on a moral plane. Why? It's literally the easiest group to put on a moral plane. Literally. Like, everyone agrees. Nazis are bad.
Why do we have to say this right now?
Good and bad, they're bad. That's my favorite part.
Can I whine about the Tina Fey business for a second?
Oh, yes, I did want to talk about that. I'm so proud of you for bringing that up.
Okay. So I thought she was really funny. I always think she's really funny. Can everybody stop with the she's so privileged in this too? I get it, but also this is SNL Weekend Update. She doesn't exist.
Okay, but have you heard the newest thing? So the newest thing is from this guy from Playboy who says it was satire. She was mocking the sort of eat your cake white privilege liberalism that says I'm just going to stress it. That's my best solution to this.
I don't care. I mean, I find it funny. I think there's a reasonable point about we all don't need to die in the street today. And there's a reasonable point. There may be a point when that's true. Okay. As non-marchy as I am, I'm feeling like there could be a moment when I need to get my ass out there with everyone else. But it's also true that giving these folks a bigger microphone is not great. And so there's a balance to be had. And I'm just kind of like, God, give Tina Fey a minute. Just let it be funny. Let her eat her cake. I really loved the language of that was so
funny,
intelligently constructed.
Did you like it when she called Paul Ryan a pussy? Because I did.
Did like it when she called Paul Ryan a pussy because he has been one.
It's so true.
That's the same thing, right? He's had an unbelievable opportunity to be a star on the rise through all this. If you want to let's just get totally craven and cynical. Paul Ryan could be one of the most popular Republicans that ever lived right now.
Yep.
And he's chosen pussy.
Yeah, it's just true. It's true. And not in the good sense. Not in the trying to get laid sense. Here's the other thing, too, about the Tina Fey thing. And here's where I'm going to get to whine about my side a little bit. Oh, man. It's exhausting sometimes to be a progressive because, and this is why I'm totally intrigued by the idea that this Conversations with the People I Hate podcast or People Who Hate Me podcast, he's going to talk to social activists who are like, you're not doing enough. Because there is such a part of that movement that's like, that's not enough. You're not being harsh enough. You're not being strong enough. You're not doing enough. Man, I get exhausted as a progressive. I can see why people get pissed off at us.
Well, we got to stop bundling everything.
Yeah.
I think part of the reason that I'm so annoyed about the way conservatives are talking about Confederate monuments is they're bundling all this other stuff around that. This doesn't have anything to do with Nancy Pelosi. This doesn't have anything to do. We just make stuff about what it's not about. This is about racism, period. That's what it's about. And so you got to decide, do you want to be a mouthpiece for racist or do you want to be a mouthpiece for non-racist? Because basically, we're all a mouthpiece for one of those things in the environment where we all have a Facebook or Twitter handle. So which one is it going to be? And that doesn't mean that you actually think that income inequality is a big deal in our country. You cannot be with Bernie on a lot of things and also be against white supremacy. These things can mutually exist. I just feel like what is happening, everybody?
Here's something else I want to whine about. I don't want to read any more Democrats or divided stories. I'm done with those. Please stop writing them. Please. I don't want to read them. Nobody wants to read them. They're stupid. They imply that like 10 people compose the entirety of the Democratic Party. And also, I don't want to talk about Bernie Sanders anymore either. And all those stories is about Bernie Sanders. So I would like us all to agree to move on from that bullshit because it's annoying.
I also don't want to talk about Mark Zuckerberg or who might run in 2020. I don't give a shit about 2020 right now.
But damn, when our president's like hosting fun, he is not getting enough shit for that. How come people freak out about Christmas decorations early, but he can start running 5 minutes after he's elected? Nobody's bitching about it. That pisses me off too.
I agree with you, and I think hard question that we have to ask ourselves, those of us who like politics, if we are only in it for the horse race, we are part of the problem.
Yeah.
Like if we can't sit with this uncomfortable moment between elections and say there is still stuff worth paying attention to and still work to do that has nothing to do with the next election, we're part of the problem.
And I just, oh God, it's so awful. I'm scared about 2020. I'm scared about
I'm not about that yet.
What if they just keep getting more terrible? My worst fear and also my biggest wish is that Oprah runs, because one, man, I would love Oprah run, but two, like I cannot have her become something that everybody hates. Like it was painful enough for me when she became political and everybody was like, oh, well now Oprah's a Democrat and that means I have to hate her and now she's another polarizing subject. I just can't do that. I can't do that.
I want to whine about the idea that you can't get political. So I'm giving this talk when we got back from Nashville. I did this talk in Cincinnati. And I started to say something, and then I was like, I felt myself going like, not to get political. And then I was like, actually, definitely to get to political, because that's what my whole thing is now. Like, I just talk about politics. But I feel like until we stop that, like this idea that this is all sort of beneath polite conversation or something.
I hate that.
What do we expect?
I hate that. And like, well, first of all, I think the idea that like politics is sort of, yeah, because it's hard though, because I think there is some parts, like I really hate I just can't watch the news these days. That really bothers me because, it's important. Now, when we did our news experiment, I did see that there's like so much of this sort of, like, does the average American really need to like follow closely every one of Steve Bannon's post-resignation interviews? No, it doesn't matter. Feel free to ignore it. But like the idea that like, because like just, I don't know, maybe it's your civic duty to sift through it and just to say like, okay, well that shit's unimportant, but this is important to the future of me and my family. And so I need to pay attention to this part. I don't know. Just saying.
I had this really, really good yoga teacher very early on in my practice who talked about how our brains make us very much like cows that like ruminate on cud, like they just chew and chew and chew and chew the same stuff and they don't digest it, doesn't go anywhere. And she was like, that's what your brain does sometimes. It just gets a thought and it's just like round and round and round and round. That's cable news, right? That's a 24-hour cycle. That's politics as entertainment. We're doing way too much of that. Nobody's asking you to be a cow.
Yeah, nobody's watching CNN. I don't watch CNN.
But like the point is, until you, normal person with a family and a job and stuff you're trying to do every day, make it worth your while to care a little bit about what's influencing the road you drive on and the wars that we're going to fight or not fight. Like, it's not going to get better, and stop complaining about it. You tuning out is guaranteeing it to continue to circle the drain.
Oh man, I'm just so discouraged by the polarization, and I just feel like I'm so scared something terrible has to happen before it gets better.
Is something terrible not happening? Like, at what point do we define like terrible?
I mean, but then you got to think like something terrible happened in 2011, or I'm sorry, 2001 with 9/11, and it seemed to be like a reaction to that. So I thought a good contrast to whining would be a puppy.
Oh, hey, Cookie.
This is Cookie, everybody. Don't lick. I just thought that would be a good, you can only get so upset when there's a puppy. Don't lick. That's Cookie. This is my new puppy, Cookie. Is he so good? Don't lick. She is good.
Hi, Cookie.
And also, everybody loves a puppy. Everybody loves a puppy. Everybody loves an eclipse. If you don't, get the hell out. That's how I feel.
I mean, I guess on the front of like, when does something terrible happen? I think that we have come to this place where, like, every household in America is going to have to feel some kind of horrific pain for us to even agree on what terrible looks like. This is my biggest whine of all.
So discouraging.
Like, stop saying that everything is fake news. I cannot
hear that. I cannot hear those 2 words one more fucking time.
Totally agree with you. It makes me want to throw something.
And the way he uses it is so ridiculous.
Wait, everyone uses it.
It's like, that's fake. No, just because you disagree with the coverage doesn't mean it's fake. That's ridiculous. There is actual fake news in which things are made up. Like, oh, I don't know, that thing you tweeted about that guy, the general, whatever. Yeah, that's fake. Oh God, stresses me out. Every time he says it, I'm like,
every time anyone says it. I have never heard a person use the phrase fake news intelligently.
No.
I just haven't. I've heard, propaganda, misinformation, like people who talk about this for a living in terms of what foreign governments do.
I would like to find the first time somebody used the words fake news.
God, it just sounds so stupid, doesn't it? Everything. I'm just.
I whine about something else too.
Stupid. It drives me crazy that the president sounds so stupid.
Hashtag when he does the fake news and then he puts the space in between the fake and the news. That also really bothers me. At least do the hashtag right.
Yeah.
What do you think about them not going to the Kennedy Center honors?
I think they're big babies. That's what I think they are. I mean, honestly, show up. Like, that's the thing, though. I thought that Newsweek cover of him eating like Cheetos and drinking a Diet Coke was dead on. Yeah. Even though it made me a little sad because I love Diet Coke too. But it was just dead on. He doesn't show up. He doesn't show up for anything. He won't face his critics.
No,
he won't face anything that contradicts the idea that he's fantastic. I mean, this is the thing with Steve Bannon even. Like, is there anybody you won't throw under the bus? He practically threw Don Jr. under the bus over that Russia meeting. He's just such a baby, and it kills me.
Did you look at that Twitter feed that, like, reproduces what he
sees? Yeah.
I thought that was excellent. And then that whole thing where Kristen Silla was talking about, like, he was on social media for 3 hours. You are the leader of the free world. Like, there's a part, I would really like somebody to do a contrast between, like, Obama's actual schedule and his. I think that would be fascinating. Or any
freaking Thomas Jefferson was busier than this president. Yeah. I don't
think he's doing, and just also back to my other soapbox, I don't think he's doing anything for the eclipse. Is he even going where the eclipse is? That is wrong.
He's to sleep in his own bed. There is not a
Barack Obama would be at some charming science fair, in the midst of the eclipse, talking about how important it is. Because it's a cool thing we're all doing together. You should be in it with us.
But therein lies the problem in our politics, because any president, if it were George W. Bush or Barack Obama, whoever it is, the other side would be like, can you believe they're spending taxpayer funds to get him to this science fair? Who cares about the eclipse? We're almost
I don't hear them.
War with North Korea. We don't have a healthcare package, and the president's out doing this. We'll have to shut up. We have to stop that stuff.
I didn't hear anybody complain about the cost. They're all silent on the cost of all his travel to his own fucking properties, or when he went to France just so he could watch a parade. I don't even want to know how much that trip costs.
Well, and his family traveling with him is super. I mean, these are adult children. He's not. I mean, there's a real cost to all of this.
That's when I really can't think about it. When I can't think about that 1 cent of my money would be going to that, I just decide it's everyone else's tax dollars, and my tax dollars are all going to really important science research.
We had not one hot second to talk about the fact that his real estate company could not come to an agreement with the Secret Service to be in Trump.
Unbelievable. Unbelievable.
It makes me mad how much money is changing hands here in broad daylight.
Broad daylight. And what happened with the the guy that, what's his name? Icahn? Do you know what I'm talking about? I haven't been able to follow that as closely.
Oh, Carl Icahn.
Yeah.
I only have so since we've thrown a nuance out the door anyway, I only have the Twitter Moments version of Carl Icahn stepped aside because he didn't want things to get political or whatever. Okay.
I don't believe you.
Nobody believes you.
I think he was deregulating something that would have made him money, I think.
I think
surprise.
The big one that everybody's watching right now is Gary Cohn.
Yeah.
What you gonna do, Gary Cohn?
Well, and it's just so scary. Look, I think that what is inevitable is that we will have a real crisis, either terrorism or a natural disaster like Hurricane Katrina, and there will be some private industry schmo in charge of something that's really important, and he won't know what he's doing. That Department of Energy piece in the New Yorker was freaking terrifying.
And it won't necessarily be because he's some private industry schmo. It'll be because they don't know how to vet anything. They don't know how to vet who he retweets. So they're not going to have a clue how to.
Is it that they don't know, or is it they're not trying?
I think it's both.
I don't think they're even trying.
I think it's kind of like so on our honeymoon, we went to this place in Jamaica that had one of those life-size chess boards. And I had never played chess before. And Chad's like, I'm going to teach you to play chess.
On a life-size chessboard?
On a life-size chessboard. And my heart is never really in it. And then he beats me in 3 moves. And I'm like, I'm going to play this again. And I think that's a little bit where Donald Trump is with the business of being the president, right? It's it took a second. I'm not good at it. I went down on something that I thought would be easy. So fuck this. I think that's where he is.
So I haven't told you about Jamie Comer came to talk at our local chamber. And it was very interesting, him discussing sort of the Republicans. So it's not the House's fault because they've passed a bunch of stuff. And it's not the Senate's fault because our Senate leadership and McConnell and Rand Paul are doing a really good job. But you can't just make a senator do what you want him to do. And he definitely never threw the Trump under the bus. And so I was like, well, whose fault is it? And now, and to his eternal credit, he didn't throw Democrats under the bus either and blame it all on us. But I was like, it's somebody's fault, friend.
Tell me what he thinks is going well.
I don't know if he said it was going well, but he did. He said that they passed some stuff. They passed he talked about this law where if you're deported, then you come back and you're deported, they put you in jail. And I was like, hold on, why would we be paying to keep these people in jail? And it's all about the victims of illegal immigrants that Donald Trump talks about all the time.
Can we wind up that for a second? I mean, stop focusing on things that don't matter.
Oh my God.
It's not that it doesn't matter when someone's been victimized by a crime, but the truth is there's all kinds of crime, and this is such a small percentage of it, and it's just gross.
Well, and I think Ezra Klein, I was listening to him on the weeds, and he made a really good point. He's like, look, if you want to have a conversation about keeping America white, if you want to have a conversation about sort of the cultural impact of immigration or how many immigrants you want to have, but stop pretending there's actually a negative, every economic analysis says having immigrants here is good for us. And yes, when you let people into your country, some of them are going to do bad things. Some of them are going to commit crimes. I don't want to downplay those crimes, but I don't think the crimes happened because they're immigrants. They happened because they're human beings.
They're people. People do bad things.
People do shitty things. And so, and that's they're not even pretending almost anymore that why do we want to cut immigration by 50%? And I didn't even realize this. They were talking about the point system and how it's only if you're a certain type of Nobel Peace Prize winner that you get the points. If you're a Nobel Peace Prize winner in literature, that doesn't help you. What is the justification for that? Oh my God, that's amazing.
I would like to know how many of the people who think that preserving white identity in America is so important would have anywhere near the points required to get into the country under this system.
Right, exactly. And he was saying, if we're going to prioritize English speakers, there's a point to be made that they're going to hurt native job seekers way more because they speak English. And they're and if we're gonna, do you really think it's gonna perpetuate good ideas about immigrants if only people we let in is super high educated people who are really going to be in charge of the native born speakers at the lower levels? What? Who's thinking
That's
through
what this whole system says. It says that the elitists, that all the people who advocate for the system rail against, are the only people that we want.
Mm-hmm.
That's what it says.
Yeah.
Get real about what positions you're espousing. Take them to their logical conclusions, people.
Chelsea says she loves me chilling in my robe. That's right. Listen, sometimes you just need to. The 5 hours of talking, it really took it out of me, man. I did not expect that.
A lot of talking.
I am still not fully recovered.
I'm not either. But it was awesome too.
It was amazing.
We got to record together in this really like professional podcast studio with another podcast. We'll share it soon. And it was funny because Sarah's like, do I gaze into your eyes? Like, how do we do this when we're together? It was really fun.
So yeah, I will whine a little bit about how I'm tired. Is there anything else you want to whine about that's not politics related?
Probably. Let me think for a second. I feel like there was one more politics related thing that I wanted to whine about. You go ahead while I'm thinking.
Am I still allowed to talk about Game of Thrones?
Sure. No, I mean, I'm never going to censor your game. I'm full First Amendment, Sarah. You talk about Game of Thrones.
Right.
You're not entitled to me
to whine about
I don't have to watch and talk back.
I'm still ready to whine about the First Amendment whenever you want to whine about that again. I really do think that we've overcorrected. I don't know what we were correcting, but like I just think that there is some speech that should be restricted. I do. I'm sorry.
What I think is that you should be careful talking about the Constitution when you haven't read it.
True.
And don't really understand what it says, because I'm tired of this idea that the First Amendment and the Second Amendment are absolutes that have no, just like it builds a wall around these rights in a way that no other rights have walls built around them.
True. That's so true. So this is good. Chelsea says you could whine about what other people whine about. And you could whine about being a woman in politics, or about how people want us to whine about mom guilt. Those are good ones.
Yeah. I mean, I think my big thing to whine about there is just like, oh my God, I am allowed to be a conservative and not like Donald Trump. I'm allowed to do that. And I guarantee you that if we go issue by issue, I have a more principled conservative stance than you do, person who's emailing me constantly about this.
I want to whine about, so one of the things I got today was, you make me feel bad about being a white guy. Okay, let's talk about that.
Sorry.
First of all, I don't make you feel anyway. You feel how you feel. I don't make you. That's the first part. The second part is this idea of the poor picked on majority is annoying. And I'd like everyone to stop. Like, this idea that like if you feel so defensive, here's a thought. Take a beat and ask yourself why. Maybe you have a reason to be. Emotions are data, though. They are not reality. It's relevant. It's not reality. Just because you feel offended doesn't mean anybody did something offensive. And look, I know that you could flip that and say that about, political correctness. I get that. I feel you. But like, oh man, just stop.
Yeah, I think that this idea, and this is what Fox News did, right? And they did it really transparently. This idea that every side is equal in every single argument. And then if you aren't giving a microphone to somebody who has something to say, you are an elitist. That is such crap. And it has been so successful. And that's what bothers me. Like, smart people in life who have watched so much of this that they just parrot it back.
Mm-hmm.
That's my biggest one.
And that's the thing too. It's like, also the other thing that really bothers me is the idea that Black Lives Matter, people who are concerned about politically correct speech or whatever, is the idea that we just have our feelings hurt is really annoying.
Yeah.
This isn't about my feelings being hurt. This is about a system of power from which certain groups are excluded. I really want to, we need to piece those two apart, everybody. Again, you could have racism without individual racist. It's not about feelings being hurt. It's really not the point.
Well, and saying that your view is not being respected literally is about your feelings being hurt.
Mm-hmm.
That's what that's about.
Yeah, because you want everybody to agree with you. It's not even like you have actual policy implications you're worried about. You're just mad that everyone doesn't think you're awesome.
This is what makes me so mad about Republicans right now, because I feel like all of the reasons that I am a Republican are being hurled at me as reasons that I'm not a Republican right now. Because Donald Trump and this idea that Chad's like in the wine bottle, like, where is that going? The idea that you have to agree with the president is like the antithesis of the First Amendment. I don't know. I could go on about it for days because I'm so
the big government into like, you know, like the North Carolina saying local people can't decide what to do with their statues, like that.
Yeah, that's like the opposite of what our thing is supposed to be.
Yeah, that's not the thing. Definitely not the thing.
That's not the thing. You shouldn't fire people for hate speech. No, like we say the private sector can do
whatever they want.
People voting with their dollars is capitalism. Like political correctness in a lot of ways is the best capitalism has for it. It's like, listen, nobody's going to tell me what to do. And so I'll exercise. I mean, that's if you are supportive of Citizens United in some ways, like it's a logical line to say, I individually vote with my dollars. I vote with my dollars in terms of campaigns that I support.
Oh, and people get so mad with the liberal boycotts of companies. They can't stand it. Y'all been boycotting Disney since 1992 because they have gay days. But damn, if I don't want to eat Chick-fil-A, I'm un-American. That's my favorite part. I love Chick-fil-A. P.S.
Oh, Justin wants to know, here's a non-politics thing that I'm super capable of whining about. So you're going to talk about Game of Thrones more. I'll talk about the thing that you don't watch, which is Big Brother. Justin wants to know if I'm capable of whining about the shit show that is Big Brother this season. Yes, Justin, I am. I can hardly stand to watch it this season because they have made it all about this couple, Jessica and Cody. Finally, Jessica is gone. Thank goodness. But I am so tired of every single diary room is like, it's us against the house, and we have to, our lives are on the line here. Like, that's all the show has been.
Whoa. What do you mean your lives are on the line?
Meaning they're going to get voted out if they don't win a competition.
That's not your life.
It's not your life. And it's also because they are not nice people. And all these people have to live together in a big house, and they're not nice, and no one likes them. And
is this a definitional problem? Do nice people go on Big Brother?
Yeah.
Okay. I never watched a season.
At least people who are aware that it is a social game where you have to live with other humans for a very long period of time. But I'm so frustrated. And then like with the rest of the group, only one person is really playing. It's just boring. Every time we turn it on, I get mad. I tell Chad, I don't know if I can do this anymore. And he's like, no, we've invested a lot. We have to do this.
Well, what I was going to whine about with Game of Thrones is, so Game of Thrones has currently exceeded the books. So it started on these George R.R. Martin books, but they've like gone past. He didn't write fast enough, basically. He hasn't written the final books, but they keep going with the TV show. So I think in theory they've like told him, or he's told them what's going to happen. But there's a lot of this plot they're just doing. And you can tell. Like, it's so obvious. It's so obvious that they didn't really know where they were going the whole time. And they were like, this will work. Let's try this. And it's just super annoying and sloppy. And I don't know. And I'm just so pissed they split up the last season. So I'm going to have to wait another year to get the end of the show. I'm super mad about that.
Tell me, like, what you think we could all watch together.
Ooh, what could we all watch together? I mean, does it have to be, like, new? It doesn't have to be new, does it?
And it could be even a thing that doesn't exist. Like, what's something that we would all get excited about watching? Like, if you're like you and can't be into, you know, the bubblegum television that I'm into. And you're like me, and you don't want
Everybody loves The West Wing. They need to reboot that shit.
That's true. The West Wing is
rebooting everything else.
Which doesn't mean that Survivor tries to go there a little bit, but it's not The West Wing.
You know what I mean? Like, they're rebooting Will and Grace. They're rebooting all this other stuff. So reboot The West Wing.
Let's whine about this. Like, they're rebooting Star Trek. I mean, CBS's commercials right now are like, hi, we're CBS, we're out of ideas.
I have not watched broadcast television probably in 6 years. Yeah, probably 6 years, unless PBS Kids counts. I did watch last night Fantastic Beasts, the Harry Potter movie, finally.
How is it?
It was fine. It was good. I mean, it's no Harry Potter, but it was good. It's nice to be in that universe again. It's a comfortable place for me. Sort of like 18th century Britain. That's where I also like to be. But I don't even think that they need to reboot. Like, you don't have to sign all the old cast on West Wing. Like, just do another show about the White House. I'm cool with that. Or like a really good show about, nobody's done a really good show about a congressional office. Like, they did the Secretary of State. And then they did that Designated Survivor show. But there's room for like a good show about a congressional office, I think.
You know what I would watch right now is sort of an in real time dramatized version of the Trump White House.
Oh my God.
Just like week by week, just kind of showing it for what it really is, because that is what, you know what I mean?
It's a reality show for sure.
And so
I
watched the Mooch all day. He would star in it himself. He wouldn't even have to have an actor. He'd be like, I'm all over this. Let's do it.
Is he what's going on with wait, I lost my train of thought. I've had too much wine / Eclipse beer. Oh crap, I just totally lost my thought. Anyway. I don't watch that much TV. I kind of wish there was something else I could get into. But my problem is I really like a weekly show. That's why I like Game of Thrones right now. Like, I like watching it weekly. But the only good shows now, they're either already all available or they put them all out at once. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that's like, it sucks because then you just ignore your family for a few days and watch them all because you can't stop yourself. Or at least that's what I do.
I understand why that's happening though, because like the only thing that I usually feel like whining about with the podcast is just the discipline of the podcast, like having to produce something. And like I was talking to somebody who wants to start their own podcast, and they were like, yeah, I thought I would do like 8 or 10 and then have those for 2 months and just release them as things come out. And I'm like, if we record an hour before we release, it's totally irrelevant by the time we put it out.
Yeah, I mean, you could do that if you're not talking about news.
Yeah.
It'd be super nice. Oh, look, puppy Stretch. How cute is my puppy, though?
Really cute.
Look how cute she is. Oh,
really
she's so sleepy. Do you see how sleepy she is? She's like, oh, let's go back to sleep. Look at her, look at her. She's falling asleep. Oh, cool.
Okay, so we should wrap up. Is there anything else, Sarah, that you would like to whine about?
I think the thing that upsets me the most about, like the thing that I really just want to whine about, because it's not that I don't think it has any impact, but I don't feel like we can talk about it because it's sort of dismissive of the like truly awful things happening in the world, is just the disrespect for the office and the White House and the importance of the office. That's it. Just, oh, it sucks so bad. It makes me so mad. The fact that Melania didn't move to the White House pisses me off. The fact that they don't do these like sort of, respected things they do all the time. The fact that he just sits around on his ass watching cable news. Like, I guess I just thought before now, like, that was not possible. Like, you just couldn't do it. Like, I mean, we've all watched The West Wing, right? I mean, it's just sort of mind blowing that you could get in there and just not do anything.
Yeah, I think it says a lot about what influences him. If you think about just being able to sit in the Oval Office and not have a sense of gravity.
Yeah.
He just doesn't.
Yeah, it's so true. Okay. Well.
Do you feel better?
I mean, I would feel better if he wasn't the president anymore, but sure.
Do you think Congress is going to do anything about that?
This Congress?
Yeah.
No. No, I do not.
Do you think that everybody's going to be like, oh, well, you fired Bannon, like, tax reform, and then nothing happens?
I think they're fooling themselves. And that's what, Jamie Comer said that. He's like, we all understand we have to do tax reform. We cannot go back. We cannot hit the 2018 and not have any accomplishments. We all know that. I'm like, that sounds great on paper. But you still have to agree to the actual laws and the actual changes. And I just don't think they're up for it.
No.
I mean, do you think they'll pass tax reform?
No. I don't know that they even understand what they mean when they say that.
Yeah, I don't understand what they
mean. The complexity.
Cutting the corporate tax rate. They all want to cut the corporate tax rate. Great.
I think they could pass a cut. Do I think they will pass tax reform? No.
I mean, it was interesting. He did say at one point, he was like, well, we've all seen what happened in Kansas. We know you just can't just make big slashes. And I was like, that's encouraging.
Watch them do it anyway.
Yeah.
I mean, probably what will happen is some big slash that has a sunset period.
Yeah.
So it's like a temporary, it's total McConnell style, like, let's put a point on the board.
Yeah. Does it make you feel better? Like, I don't want to be this shouting for you, but like, how do you feel when you read the stories about how mad Mitch McConnell is?
I mean, it feels like karma.
Word. It helped me a lot because I think I had turned him into like this Machiavellian, like could not be defeated person. And so, first of all, it's like humanized for him. Like, okay, there is a limit to his power. It's so poetic because I was thinking about this. Like, so first of all, the biggest source of political power and one that he used for so long was passing out money and still tries to use from time to time. And his party is the one who put all those people in power who were like, we're not going to do this anymore. No more pork. No more handouts. Which, however you feel about this, yay or nay, that was his way.
Right.
And he elected these people. And then all he wanted was to be in control. And so he sold his soul to this dude who's making his life a living hell. So, poetic justice.
I mean, I think that it is another, I don't know how many of these lessons they need, but it is another lesson that that loyalty with Donald Trump is a one-way street. It just is. Like, he will suck you dry and then discard you.
Like, I don't know if loyalty is the right word. Like sacrifice. Perhaps you are sacrificing yourself. I think that might be a better word. Laying yourself on the altar.
I mean, yeah, he's feudal in his thinking, right? Like, he's the lord of the manor, and that's kind of the way he expects everyone to conduct themselves.
Do we think that story about like that they send him the folders full of good press twice a day is true?
Yes.
100%. I need it to not be true.
Yeah, that's true. Sorry.
I'm gonna pretend it's not true. Just so I can sleep at night. Just so my head doesn't start spinning around backwards, Exorcist style.
I mean, the reason that I believe all of that is because I know enough people who have enough characteristics in common with him to understand something about that kind of ego.
And there is a part of me that like, I do feel sorry for people like that. I feel sorry people who fuel their entire lives and are slaves to their egos. Because the ego is a cruel mistress, yo.
Yeah. I mean, it's going to be exhausting. It speaks to such a fundamental insecurity at the end of the day. I mean, and you see it, right? I mean, that's why I believe it's true, because you need that constant stoking. It's it's almost it makes me think about addiction. I just had this amazing interview that we're going to share on an upcoming episode about sex addiction. And, she kept talking about how, like with any kind of addiction, what's feeding it constantly has to escalate. And I would imagine that in a normal circumstance is overwhelming, but then to be the most talked about person in the world, it's like an explosion. It's a bad science experiment.
That's a good question. What's he going to do next?
What's he going to do next?
Because even in literal end of the world worst case scenario and he gets reelected. I mean, it's gonna all have to end eventually.
I mean, I still think his end game is some kind of media company. I think he focuses on the media constantly for an economic reason.
Yeah. Well, and he does get to build his own presidential library. That seems like something he would very much enjoy.
It would have to involve books, right?
No.
Or would it?
No, just documents.
His presidential library can be where all these Confederate monuments go.
And all the tweets. We got to print them all out. We got to print all the tweets.
And they can dip those bad boys in gold, line them up.
The idea of a Trump presidential library makes me so nauseous. I don't even know what to say.
Okay, well, are we done? Do we feel cathartic about this?
Yeah. It doesn't matter because the eclipse is coming. It's like winter on Game of Thrones. I'm so excited.
So I'm trying to keep up with Twitter a little bit, and Meg says, can we all watch The West Wing together? Yes.
Okay, but here's a problem. I'm going to have to put a quick thing in that hand. I know we keep trying to wrap up, and I keep thinking of something else. I can't. I've tried to rewatch The West Wing, and it's really hard for me. I find almost anything Aaron Sorkin has written unbearable.
Because it's lecture porn.
Yes.
It is.
And it's not just lecture porn, and it's just, I don't know. It's hard
to. Heavy-handed.
Yes, so heavy-handed, and so it's hard to sort of buy into that universe now that that Donald Trump can be president.
Yeah, but listen, it's talking about Aaron Sorkin being heavy-handed in lecture porn is like saying, I can't eat a Snickers because it's sweet. That's what it's supposed to be. That's the beauty.
We shall watch Veep. That's way more accurate to the universe we currently live in.
Yeah.
Oh, man. This is why we don't whine on our show. It's not that fulfilling.
Doesn't go anywhere, really.
Mm-mm. That's okay. We got it off our chest.
Yeah.
Right here. Do you want to say hi, Nicholas? No, he doesn't.
Okay. Well, so we should say thank you so much
to our patrons.
You guys are awesome, and we try to give you better than this on our podcast.
We'll turn this into MP3 too, and put it in the feed so people can listen to it if they don't want to watch me in my bathroom. But you would miss the puppy, and that would be super sad.
I feel like the puppy was the highlight of this.
It was definitely the highlight. It was inspired. We needed something to counteract the whining. All right. Bye, everybody. Good night. Have a great weekend. Bye.